Leslie Moore held the cream-colored wedding invitation in her trembling hands. After months of planning, her daughter Emma's big day was finally here. The elegant script read, "Emma Catherine and William James request your presence." Leslie smiled through her tears. Despite their recent distance, she was so proud of Emma. Leslie had worked 3 jobs to put Emma through college. She'd sacrificed everything for this moment. The beautiful Rosewood Manor venue had cost a fortune, but seeing Emma happy was worth every penny. Leslie had even taken out a second mortgage on her house to help pay for the wedding. As she placed the invitation on her dresser, Leslie remembered Emma as a little girl, spinning in her princess dress. Now her baby was getting married. Nothing could ruin this perfect day. Leslie picked out her best dress and prepared for the celebration of a lifetime. If you like our revenge stories, please subscribe for more. We drop powerful news stories every week, filled with truth, emotion, and justice. Don't miss the next one. And remember, some stories hurt, but they heal too. Subscribe now, and join the journey. Leslie arrived at Rosewood Manor feeling nervous but excited. The venue looked magnificent with white roses and golden lights everywhere. She had chosen this place herself and spent countless hours planning every detail with the wedding coordinator. Walking through the grand entrance, Leslie expected warm greetings from family and friends. Instead, she noticed strange looks from Emma's new in-laws, the Thornton family. They whispered among themselves and turned away when she approached. Even Emma seemed distant, barely acknowledging her mother's presence. "Leslie, you made it," said Mrs. Thornton coldly, looking her up and down with disapproval. "How nice." The other guests seemed to follow the Thorntons' lead, giving Leslie polite but distant smiles. She felt like an outsider at her own daughter's wedding. Something was wrong, but Leslie couldn't figure out what. She took her seat, hoping things would improve once the ceremony began. The wedding ceremony was beautiful, but the reception felt like torture for Leslie. She was seated at a table in the back corner, far from family and close friends. The Thorntons sat at the head table with Emma and William, acting like they had paid for everything. Throughout dinner, Leslie caught snippets of conversation from nearby tables. "I heard the Thorntons are so generous, paying for this whole wedding. Emma is so lucky to have such wealthy in-laws. I wonder where Emma's mother is. I barely see her." Leslie's heart sank with each comment. People thought the Thorntons had paid for the wedding. She wanted to speak up, to tell everyone the truth about who really made this day possible. But she didn't want to cause drama on Emma's special day. Leslie sat quietly, watching her daughter laugh and dance while feeling completely invisible. During the father-daughter dance, Leslie finally approached Emma, hoping for a private moment with her daughter. She had practiced a heartfelt speech about how proud she was and how much she loved Emma. "Emma, honey, can we talk for just a minute?" Leslie asked softly. Emma turned around with an expression Leslie had never seen before, cold and cruel. In front of dozens of guests, Emma's voice rang out loud and clear, "You don't belong here, Mother. This is my day, and I don't want you ruining it." The entire room fell silent. Guests stopped dancing and turned to stare. Some pulled out their phones. Leslie felt her face burn with embarrassment and shock. Her own daughter, the child she had sacrificed everything for, had just publicly humiliated her. Emma turned back to William without another word, leaving Leslie standing alone in the middle of the dance floor while everyone watched. If you like our revenge stories, please subscribe for more. We drop powerful news stories every week, filled with truth, emotion, and justice. Don't miss the next one. And remember, some stories hurt, but they heal too. Subscribe now, and join the journey. Leslie stood frozen for what felt like hours but was probably only seconds. The music had stopped, and she could hear people whispering behind their hands. Some looked sorry for her, others seemed entertained by the drama. Without saying a word, Leslie walked slowly toward the exit. Her legs felt weak, and her hands shook as she gathered her purse. She passed the beautiful decorations she had helped choose, the flowers she had paid for, the venue she had worked so hard to afford. At the door, Leslie turned back one last time. Emma was already back to laughing and dancing, as if nothing had happened. The Thorntons looked satisfied, like they had won some kind of battle. Leslie stepped into the cool night air and walked to her car. As she drove away from Rosewood Manor, one thought burned in her mind. Emma had no idea what she had just done. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Driving home through the dark streets, Leslie's mind raced with memories. She remembered Emma's first day of kindergarten, how scared and excited she had been. Leslie had worked double shifts at the diner just to afford the school supplies and new clothes Emma needed. When Emma wanted to join the debate team in high school, Leslie picked up weekend catering jobs to pay for the fees and travel expenses. When Emma dreamed of attending State University, Leslie refinanced her house and worked 3 jobs to make it happen. Every milestone, every achievement, every dream Emma had, Leslie had made possible through sweat, tears, and sacrifice. She remembered the late nights when Emma was sick, reading her favorite stories and making homemade soup. She remembered teaching Emma to drive, helping with homework, and celebrating every small victory. Now Emma had thrown it all away with 6 cruel words. "You don't belong here." Leslie wiped away angry tears. Her daughter had forgotten everything. Back in her small apartment, Leslie pulled out a box of financial documents. Inside were bank statements, receipts, and contracts that told the real story of Emma's wedding. She spread them across her kitchen table like evidence in a court case. There was the $50,000 deposit for Rosewood Manor, paid from Leslie's savings account. The $25,000 for catering, charged to Leslie's credit card. Another $15,000 for flowers, music, and photography, all paid by Leslie. The wedding dress receipt showed Leslie's signature on a $3,000 purchase. The papers painted a clear picture. Leslie had paid for nearly everything. The Thorntons had contributed maybe $10,000 for the rehearsal dinner, but somehow they were getting all the credit. Leslie found emails between Emma and the Thorntons where they discussed not mentioning Leslie's contributions, because it would be embarrassing for everyone involved. Emma had not only forgotten her mother's sacrifices, she had actively hidden them. Leslie's hands trembled with rage as she read her daughter's betrayal in black and white. Leslie thought back to when things started changing between her and Emma. It began about 6 months ago when Emma started dating William seriously. Suddenly, Emma was spending all her time with the Thornton family and their wealthy friends. Emma stopped calling as often. When she did call, she seemed embarrassed by Leslie's job at the diner and her small apartment. "Mom, could you not mention where you work when you meet William's parents?" Emma had asked. "It's just complicated." Then came the wedding planning meetings where Emma gradually stopped including Leslie. "The Thorntons have such good taste," Emma would say. "They know all the best vendors." Leslie's suggestions were ignored or dismissed as not quite right for the vision. Looking back, Leslie could see how the Thorntons had slowly poisoned Emma against her own mother. They made Emma ashamed of her humble background and convinced her that Leslie was an embarrassment. Emma had chosen their money and status over her mother's love and sacrifice. The first real betrayal happened 3 months before the wedding. Leslie had spent weeks researching photographers and found the perfect one within their budget. When she called to confirm the booking, she discovered Emma had already hired someone else. Someone much more expensive that the Thorntons recommended. "I'm sorry, Mom," Emma said when confronted. "The Thorntons insisted on this photographer. They're paying for it anyway, so it doesn't matter." But Leslie knew it did matter. It was another way of erasing her from her daughter's special day. The same thing happened with the flowers, the music, and even the invitations. Everything Leslie chose was quietly replaced with the better options chosen by the Thorntons. The final insult came when Leslie saw the wedding website Emma created. Under "Special Thanks," only the Thorntons were mentioned. Leslie's name appeared nowhere on the page that celebrated the wedding she had paid for. When Leslie asked about it, Emma just shrugged and said, "I didn't want to make it too long." Sitting in her kitchen at 2 a.m., surrounded by evidence of her daughter's betrayal, Leslie felt something snap inside her. The sweet, patient mother who had sacrificed everything was gone. In her place was someone who had been pushed too far. Emma's public humiliation at the wedding was the final straw. Leslie had endured months of disrespect, lies, and being erased from her daughter's life. She had stayed silent to keep the peace, hoping Emma would come to her senses. Instead, Emma had chosen to destroy their relationship in front of everyone. Leslie looked at the deed to Rosewood Manor that lay on top of the pile of papers. Most people didn't know that Leslie owned the venue. She had bought it as an investment property 2 years ago, planning to turn it into a successful event space. The wedding was supposed to be its grand opening. A slow smile spread across Leslie's face. Emma wanted to play games? Leslie was about to show her daughter that some games have very expensive consequences. The next morning, Leslie picked up her phone and dialed a number she knew by heart. Hamilton Law Office, this is Patricia speaking. Patricia, it's Leslie Moore. I need to speak with Tom immediately. It's urgent. Tom Hamilton had been Leslie's lawyer for 15 years. He had helped her buy her house, navigate her divorce, and purchase Rosewood Manor. More importantly, he was one of the few people who knew the truth about Leslie's finances. Leslie. How did the wedding go? I saw the beautiful photos on social media. That's exactly what I need to talk to you about, Tom. Emma publicly humiliated me at the reception. Now I want to exercise my rights as owner of the venue. There was a pause. Leslie, are you sure about this? This could permanently damage your relationship with Emma. Tom, she already damaged our relationship when she told me I don't belong at the wedding I paid for. Can you meet me this afternoon? I'll clear my schedule. This sounds serious. That afternoon, Leslie sat in Tom's conference room with 2 other people, her accountant Patricia Walsh and her business partner in the venue, Michael Kane. The 3 of them had helped Leslie build her small empire while Emma was busy being ashamed of her mother. Let me make sure I understand, Tom said, reviewing documents. Emma and the Thorntons have been telling everyone that the Thorntons paid for the wedding venue, when in fact Leslie owns it outright? That's correct, Patricia confirmed. Leslie bought Rosewood Manor 18 months ago. She's been renovating it and planned to use Emma's wedding as the grand opening event. Michael nodded. We have all the paperwork. Property deed, business licenses, insurance policies, everything is in Leslie's name. Tom leaned back in his chair. So technically, Emma's wedding reception happened at Leslie's business without proper contracts or payment? Exactly, Leslie said firmly. I gave her the venue as a wedding gift, but she's been lying about who owns it. I want to reclaim my property and expose the truth. Patricia spread financial documents across the conference table like a detective solving a case. Here's the complete paper trail showing Leslie's ownership of Rosewood Manor. She pointed to the first document. Property purchase agreement, signed by Leslie Moore, dated 18 months ago. Purchase price, $1.8 million. Next came bank statements showing the down payment and mortgage payments, all from Leslie's accounts. Business license for Rosewood Manor Events, owner, Leslie Moore. Patricia continued laying out papers. Insurance policies, renovation permits, contractor payments, everything traces back to Leslie. Michael pulled out his laptop. I also have emails between Leslie and Emma from 6 months ago where Leslie offered the venue as a wedding gift. Emma never told the Thorntons that her mother owned the place. Tom examined each document carefully. This is ironclad. Leslie has complete legal ownership. But are you sure you want to take this nuclear option? Once we do this, there's no going back. Leslie thought of Emma's cruel words and the months of lies. Tom, my daughter chose to humiliate me. Now she gets to face the consequences. Here's what I'm proposing, Tom said, leaning forward with a serious expression. We wait until the wedding reception is in full swing tomorrow evening. They're having a second celebration for extended family who couldn't make it today. Leslie raised an eyebrow. You want to confront them during the party? Think about it, Tom explained. Emma humiliated you publicly. Turnabout is fair play. We show up with all the documentation, announce that Leslie is the actual owner of the venue, and demand immediate payment for the event. Patricia looked worried. That's pretty dramatic, Tom. Are you sure this is the best approach? Michael grinned. I like it. Emma wanted drama at her wedding? Let's give her drama she'll never forget. Tom pulled out his phone. I'll contact the venue manager and inform them of the ownership situation. Legally, they have to respect Leslie's authority once we prove ownership. Leslie felt her heart racing with excitement and fear. What if this backfires? What if people think I'm being cruel? Leslie, Tom said softly, your daughter already made you look like a fool. Now we're just setting the record straight. While Emma and William celebrated with friends and family, completely unaware of what was coming, Leslie spent the day preparing for battle. She had her hair done and bought a beautiful new dress. If she was going to reclaim her venue, she would look stunning doing it. Tom prepared legal documents that would prove Leslie's ownership beyond any doubt. Patricia organized financial records into a presentation folder. Michael contacted the venue manager to schedule a private meeting before the evening reception. Remember, Tom coached Leslie over lunch, stay calm and professional. We're not here to cause drama. We're here to correct lies and protect your interests. Leslie practiced her statement in the mirror. Emma told me I don't belong here. Turns out, I own here. Simple, direct, and powerful. As evening approached, Leslie felt nervous but determined. For months, she had been treated like an embarrassment by her own daughter. Tonight, Emma would learn that her mother was nobody's fool. The countdown to confrontation had begun. At exactly 6 p.m., Leslie walked through the doors of Rosewood Manor for the second time in 24 hours. This time, however, she wasn't a guest, she was the owner. Tom, Patricia, and Michael followed behind her, carrying briefcases full of legal documents. The venue looked even more beautiful than the night before. Emma had insisted on having a second reception for relatives who couldn't attend the first party. About 60 people were already gathered, including all the Thorntons and their wealthy friends. Emma spotted Leslie immediately and her face turned red with anger. What are you doing here? I thought I made it clear last night that you're not welcome. Leslie smiled calmly. Hello, Emma. We need to have a conversation. William rushed over, looking embarrassed. Mrs. Moore, perhaps we should discuss this privately. Actually, Leslie said, her voice carrying across the room, I think everyone here should hear what I have to say. After all, my daughter likes public announcements. The room gradually fell silent as guests sensed something dramatic was about to happen. Leslie walked confidently to the small stage where a microphone stood ready for toasts and speeches. Emma tried to block her path, but Tom stepped forward with his authoritative lawyer presence. Excuse me, everyone, Leslie said as she reached for the microphone. I have an important announcement to make. Stop. Emma shrieked. This is my wedding reception. You can't just. Actually, she can, Tom interrupted, pulling out an official-looking document. Leslie Moore has every legal right to address guests at this venue. The crowd murmured with confusion. Mrs. Thornton pushed forward, looking furious. What is the meaning of this? Who do you people think you are? Leslie tapped the microphone, and the sound echoed through the elegant room. 60 pairs of eyes focused on her as she prepared to deliver the speech of her lifetime. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your attention. I'm Leslie Moore, Emma's mother, and I have something very important to tell you about this beautiful venue where we're celebrating tonight. Leslie's voice was steady and clear as she addressed the shocked crowd. Last night, my daughter told me I don't belong here. Today, I'd like to set the record straight about who actually does belong here. She gestured gracefully around the room. Welcome to Rosewood Manor, which I purchased 18 months ago for $1.8 million. I am the sole owner of this property. Gasps rippled through the crowd. People pulled out phones to record what was happening. Mrs. Thornton's face went white with shock. Tom stepped forward with a folder of documents. I'm Tom Hamilton, Mrs. Moore's attorney. Everything she's saying can be verified with these legal documents, property deeds, business licenses, and financial records. Leslie continued, for months, I've watched the Thornton family take credit for paying for this venue, while I stayed silent to avoid embarrassing my daughter. But after last night's public humiliation, I've decided the truth needs to come out. Emma stood frozen, her mouth hanging open. William looked like he wanted to disappear through the floor. Emma's entire wedding was paid for by me, including this venue that she claimed her in-laws purchased. The reaction was immediate and explosive. Guests began talking all at once, their voices creating a buzz of shock and confusion. Some people were filming with their phones, others were checking social media to see if anyone else was posting about the drama. This is impossible. Mrs. Thornton shouted. We have contracts with this venue. Patricia stepped forward calmly. Actually, you have contracts with Rosewood Manor Events, which is owned entirely by Leslie Moore. Your contracts are with her business. A well-dressed man in the crowd called out, wait, are you saying the Thorntons lied about paying for the venue? Not necessarily lied, Leslie replied diplomatically. But they certainly allowed everyone to believe something that wasn't true. Emma's college friends were frantically texting and posting on social media. One of them shouted, this is going viral already. #wedding drama is trending. William's best man stepped forward. Emma, is this true? Did your Emma finally found her voice, but it came out as a strangled scream, she's lying. She's trying to ruin my wedding because she's jealous. Emma's composure completely shattered. You're a vindictive, jealous woman, she screamed at Leslie. You can't stand that I found a better family than you. The crowd gasped at Emma's cruel words. Even some of the Thorntons looked uncomfortable with her outburst. Emma, stop, William pleaded, trying to calm his new wife down. But Emma was beyond reason. She's always been jealous of successful people. She works at a diner and lives in a tiny apartment. She could never afford a place like this. Tom calmly opened his briefcase and pulled out more documents. Actually, Leslie owns 3 rental properties, has a successful catering business, and has a net worth of approximately $4 million. This revelation stunned everyone, including Emma, who clearly had no idea about her mother's actual financial situation. Mrs. Thornton grabbed Emma's arm. Emma, dear, perhaps we should discuss this privately. No. Emma yelled. I want everyone to see what a horrible person she is. She's trying to destroy my happiness because she has nothing in her own life. The crowd watched in horrified fascination as Emma completely melted down in front of everyone. Michael stepped forward with a tablet and portable speaker. Since Emma claims her mother is lying, let's review some evidence. He connected his tablet to the venue's sound system and began playing audio recordings. Emma's voice filled the room, just don't mention Mom's contributions to the wedding. It would be embarrassing for everyone involved. Next came email printouts showing Emma actively hiding Leslie's payments from the Thorntons. Then bank statements proving every major wedding expense came from Leslie's accounts. Here's the catering contract, Patricia announced, holding up papers. Paid in full by Leslie Moore 6 months ago. Flower arrangements, $8,000, paid by Leslie Moore. Photography package, $12,000, paid by Leslie Moore. Wedding dress and alterations, $3,000, paid by Leslie Moore. With each revelation, Emma looked smaller and more defeated. The Thorntons huddled together, whispering frantically. Several guests were openly recording everything, and the sound of notification pings filled the air as the story spread across social media in real time. William finally spoke up, Emma, you told me your mother couldn't afford to contribute to the wedding. The venue manager, James, appeared at Leslie's side looking very professional and slightly apologetic. Mrs. Moore, I sincerely apologize for the confusion. When I received your lawyer's call this afternoon, I immediately reviewed our contracts. He addressed the confused crowd. For legal and insurance purposes, I need to clarify the situation. This event was booked as a private party using Leslie Moore's owner privileges. No rental fees were paid because Mrs. Moore owns the venue. James pulled out his clipboard. However, given the misunderstanding about payment and authorization, I need to halt this event pending legal review. What does that mean? William asked, panic creeping into his voice. It means, James said firmly, that everyone needs to leave the premises within the next hour while we sort out the contractual issues. The crowd erupted in chaos. Some guests headed for the exits, others lingered to watch the drama continue. The Thorntons demanded to speak with James privately, but he politely refused. Emma stood in her beautiful wedding dress, watching her second reception dissolve into a legal nightmare. The look of defeat on her face was almost enough to make Leslie feel sorry for her. Almost. Within an hour, #WeddingVenueScandal was trending on 3 different social media platforms. Videos of Leslie's announcement and Emma's meltdown had been viewed hundreds of thousands of times. News outlets picked up the story. Mother owns wedding venue, daughter claims she doesn't belong there. Millionaire mom reveals daughter's lies at reception. Wedding drama, when you don't belong here, backfires spectacularly. Emma's phone buzzed constantly with notifications, comments, and messages. Most of them were not supportive. People were calling her ungrateful, spoiled, and cruel. The Thorntons were being criticized for taking credit for expenses they didn't pay. Leslie's phone was buzzing too, but with very different messages. Old friends were reaching out with support. We always knew you were stronger than people thought. Emma doesn't deserve you. You handled that with such grace and dignity. Local news stations were requesting interviews. Wedding planners were calling to book Rosewood Manor for future events. The dramatic revelation had actually created incredible publicity for Leslie's business. By midnight, the story had reached national news websites. Emma's dream of a perfect, private wedding had become a very public lesson about treating family with respect. The next morning, Leslie sat in her beautifully renovated office at Rosewood Manor, reviewing booking requests that had poured in overnight. The phone hadn't stopped ringing with people wanting to reserve the venue that had become famous for its dramatic revelation. Tom sat across from her, grinning. I've received 3 calls from production companies wanting to option your story for TV movies. And, Patricia added, we've had 15 legitimate wedding bookings since yesterday. The publicity has been incredible. Michael knocked on the door. Leslie, there's a young woman here to see you. She says she's your daughter. Emma stood in the doorway looking smaller than Leslie had ever seen her. Gone was the demanding bride from yesterday. This was a broken young woman who had lost everything she thought she wanted. Mom, Emma said quietly, can we talk? Leslie gestured to a chair. Of course, honey. But first, let me show you something. She pulled out a framed newspaper clipping from that morning's paper. Local business owner donates wedding venue profits to homeless shelter. The article explained how Leslie planned to use her new success to help people in need. You always taught me to help others, Leslie said. I never forgot that lesson, even when you forgot who taught it to you. 3 months later, Leslie stood on the balcony of Rosewood Manor watching a different wedding celebration below. This bride was treating her mother like a queen, and Leslie smiled at the genuine love and respect she witnessed. Emma had moved back home after her marriage fell apart. William couldn't handle the social media aftermath and the revelation of how shallow his new wife could be. The Thorntons had cut ties with Emma completely once their reputation was damaged. Mom? Emma appeared beside her on the balcony. I've been thinking about what you said that night. Leslie waited patiently for her daughter to continue. You said, she told me I didn't belong. Turns out, I owned it. But it wasn't really about the venue, was it? Leslie shook her head. No, sweetheart. It was about respect. About remembering who sacrificed for you and who loved you unconditionally. Emma's eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry, Mom. I lost sight of what really mattered. Leslie hugged her daughter close. We all make mistakes, Emma. The important thing is learning from them. As they watched the happy celebration below, Leslie reflected on how sometimes the most painful lessons lead to the most important truths. Her daughter had learned that belonging isn't about money or status, it's about love, respect, and remembering who stands by you no matter what. If this story moved you, don't forget to like the video, subscribe for more powerful narratives, and share your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear what part hit you the hardest. Thanks for watching.